caught up with infamous Steve Hill, knife maker to the stars. We sat down to go over his storied career in knife making and a few encounters that would lead him to a variety of very public collectors of fine cutlery, including, but not limited to, some of the largest names in the music industry that not only collect, but carry his knives on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, just cracked open a beer for truth serum.
Oh, there we go. See? Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That works, man. That works. All right. So yeah, if you're ready, let's jump into it then. I'll roll the intro and then we'll get going.
Okay.
All right, we're going to jump into this like we do every week. Welcome to another episode of the Bladeology podcast. We are on this week with a guest. This is the vocal representation of Jeremiah Burbank from PVK Vegas, and we're on this week with Steve Hill. Steve, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
It's I have no major complaints. Yeah, the situation of the world is out of my command, so otherwise pretty good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're in Texas. How's Texas right now?
Well, I'm watching a beautiful sunset over the far ridge. Here in drop dead gorgeous Spring Branch, which is in between Austin and San Antonio. Right on the front door of the hill country. But yeah, fresh in from a day in the shop, and it hit 80 out there.
Oh man! All right.
Yeah, I know you were saying it was cold yesterday.
Yeah, no kidding. And so okay, so you were in the shop and you're working on knives like full time. Is that right?
Oh yeah, been full time since '89, and sold my first 78, and then it was just part time when the spirit moved me. A lot of that had to do with where I was working. My first knives were made on a 1x42-inch belt sander at the sheet metal machine shop I worked at in Avon, Massachusetts.
Oh man! All right.
Yeah.
Roughly, what year was that?
Well, let's see. I started making them in '77, so it took about a year before I made something that somebody wanted to buy.
All right, that works. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But and it was all no YouTube, nothing like that back in those days. It was all trial and error by reading How to Make Knives, written by Richard Barney and Bob Lovelace. That was it.
Oh wow. All right. Man. I mean, those are some good teachers, so that's a good place to start.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first got in the guild, I went up and saw Bob Lovelace there and thanked him for writing that book and said it made my dream come true. Here I am, full-time knife maker, now in the guild. And he just looked at me and he goes, well, how do you like starving for a living? He was a very
yeah, that's about right.
blunt, brusque fella. Yeah, but it's been a long, strange trip.
Right. So so you're saying you started in Avon. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about those days.
Well, Avon was just town north of Brockton, where I was born and raised, the home of the champs. And I've met a few winners there myself. But, it was, I always loved knives, ever since I was a kid. My dad gave me a hunting knife when I was 7 years old, which didn't thrill my mom all that much. But, used to play Tarzan and all that and whipping them at trees and losing them. And I just thought you bought them at the store. And then one day on my paper route, I stopped to always would stop and get a hot fudge sundae at my last customer, the pharmacy in Brockton, and picked up a magazine to read, and it had Bo Randall, King of the Custom Knife Makers. I went, wow, I didn't know one guy could do this. I just thought you bought them at the store. So that just sort of set the spark off, so to speak. And,
Randall,
you know,
wow.
yeah, well, I mean, back in those days, there weren't any. Well, maybe there might have been American Blade. I think that was the magazine then, but it was hard to find that. So anything, related to knives was pretty much in men's or gun magazines. There might be a little article. I think there was another one on Gil Hibben that I read. But so and then I found this book, How to Make Knives, and just experimented. First one was made out of a file, and when I was done with it, I was scratching my head, wondering, is this a knife? I'm not sure. It might be. But my brother loved it. He still has it.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
and then a tool maker in this shop I worked at in Avon, he handed me a piece of D2 steel, and he said, "You'll never make a knife out of this." That's all I needed to hear. See, they had 2 shifts, so I worked the first shift, and if no one was on that belt sander second shift, I would stay and work, on my stuff there. I didn't have my own gear at the time. And that seemed to be, when I moved down to Florida, I moved down there because my brother was stationed in the Air Force in Georgia. So I went down to visit him in Valdosta and decided to take a drive down 441 to Orlando and visit the Randall shop. Brought a knife I had made that I still have. I consider it the first real knife I made. And I still have it. And it was the one made out of D2. And I showed it to Bo Randall, and he exclaimed, "God damn." And I said, "Oh, I'd like to work for you." He said, "Oh, well, let's go talk to Gary." He had just turned the shop over to Gary. He was pretty much retired by then. And so I got hired on there and worked there for about 6 months. And but our philosophies didn't mesh. That's when I found out that they were more semi-production. I mean, yeah, you were hands-on grinding, but there was a whole slew of us. It was like a production line, and they used to still have to drag me out of there at the end of the day, and I'd even volunteer to bring stuff home to work on. But the thing that got me was they would not let you work on your own knives. I said, "Well, you're not paying me
Okay.
24/7." So anyway, we had and the foreman told me years later when we had our tables side by side at the Blade show, he says, "That's the best thing that ever happened, you leaving," because he goes, look at what you're making. He goes, instead of our Randall had a pretty set you know number of patterns, and most of them were being made for their knife dealers. That's pretty much why there's such a waiting list for Joe Blow off the street.
Right.
But
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're just
but
fulfilling the dealer orders.
yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
But anyway, it's just been interesting, and I've met a lot of interesting people along the way, and just kept trying to get better and better at it. And I lived in Florida for a good while. After I got out of Randall shops, and I went back into sheet metal shops, but they would interview me, and then I would say, "Well, I need to interview the shop," and if there wasn't a belt grinder in there, I go, "Sorry, no deal."
Hey, I mean, you gotta have. Hey, man, there's a line. You gotta meet it,
oh
right? Meet in the middle.
yeah, exactly. But it was the same thing, and they had to have like two shifts, so and all that. But I finally got a speed cut, not speed gut, but speed cut belt grinder, which were made by the Drapers, who were famous. Well, in the old school knife makers, they might remember Harvey Draper, the Draper brothers out in Utah, where Buster Orensky and a few of them fellas all come up. But they made these belt grinders, and I'll tell you, man, it works like a champ. It was still running, and that was from 1989 when I bought it, and the same motor still powering it.
Oh wow. Okay, that's proper.
Yeah.
That's well made.
Well, that was back in the day when they did make things to last. Sounding like an
Right.
old timer there, Sonny.
No,
But yeah, stuff wasn't
I'm
engine.
familiar with Audra Draper.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that she must be
I would
this part of the same family?
I would think so. Except I think she isn't she in Wyoming. She's in the ABS.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I
But
wonder if
well, I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe she married a Draper. That could be. I'm not
I'll have to
sure.
look into that.
I'm not sure. I just then got my own shop going, and my first business card said knife maker, guitarist, and comedian, because I was doing stand-up comedy every weekend at a comedy club.
Oh wow. Okay. No joke,
Yeah,
huh?
no joke. Well, I did parodies, musical parodies, but there'd be banter in between. Like I said, it's interesting life, I think.
So you're in Florida. You moonlit at the Randall shop for about 6 months. You moved on,
Well, I didn't
but
moonlight there. That was my full-time gig that's what brought me to Florida. And
okay. All right.
then after that, I went to various other shops until I decided to just do my own thing. Once I got that speed gut cut, I don't know why I keep saying speed gut. Jeez. But once I got that belt grinder, it was, I didn't want to have to go anywhere else. Of course, I had to run quite a gauntlet. The rat race. He was in rush hour traffic morning, rush hour traffic at night. So to walk out the kitchen door into the garage to the shop was very enticing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And back then I had to go to a lot of gun shows, gun and knife shows. But they used to have sections that was just all knife makers, which was nice. So that, at least that way, anyone coming in, looking for fine handmade knives, it was a knife maker section. Like it was two aisles that faced each other. And I got to meet a lot of good guys down there in Florida. Rodney Rogers, Rex Robinson became a real good friend of mine. And but just traveled the gun show circuit and did really good down in South Florida, from about down Miami way, Fort Lauderdale. Now I want to say Fort Lauderdale. But in Miami, those were good spots. And then once the guild came to Orlando, that was like, wow. So I brought my work around, and Jimmy Lyle was the first one to sign my application. Then Joe Kalsa, who ironically I had met in Massachusetts.
No kidding.
Yeah, I went to pick up blades from a heat treater in Quincy, just south of Boston. And there was this fella in front of me with a beard and a turban, all dressed in. I go, what's with this guy? And then they brought out a whole bunch of blades for him, all these Arabian looking things. I go, wow. So we got to talking. I said, I didn't think there was another knife maker in the neighborhood. I knew about Jimmy Fikes out there in Orange, which is, you're from like Western Mass, ain't you? Did you ever hear of Jimmy Fikes?
The name does sound very familiar. Yep. Yeah, that's out
Yeah.
in my neck of the woods.
Yeah. Well, in your neck of the woods, one of my friends was John Krabasik. You must have heard of him out in
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Northampton.
I know John real well. Yeah.
Yeah. I just stayed in Florida for a bit, and then the call of New England got pretty strong, and not quite sure why exactly. I must have missed shoveling snow.
You say so.
Yeah, well, we've had snow here, but I look at it, and we got 4 inches one time, and it was like the whole state was shut down, and I just looked at it and go, that's nice. And the next day it was melted and gone. I was kind of hoping it would stay, but yeah, someone posted something on Facebook. They showed a spilt Slurpee cup on the pavement, and they go, Texas is closed, because there were ice cubes on the pavement. But, moving down Hampshire, where, 2 feet of snow, that's no excuse. Get to work, get to school.
Yeah, that's about right. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Hampshire is that's its own drum for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But went to the Guild show out in Vegas. That's where what was that, 97, I think, was the first year they moved out there. And I had made one of the four giveaway knives, so I went out there, and it was an interesting town. At the time I was still living in Orlando, but when I got to Vegas the end of July, I go, boy, I thought Florida was hot, but Vegas takes the cake.
Oh my God! Yeah. No, that time of year, yeah.
I remember seeing 118 degrees. I went, what the hell?
Sure. Even the shadows are heating up. The shadows are looking for somewhere cool to cool off on. It's hot, man. It's
I don't know. Yeah, myself, I enjoyed the day after the Guild show, and we went out to Red Rocks Canyon, and then went up to Mount Charleston. I liked that a lot, but I didn't much care for the show. You've got that, the cacophony of several conversations, hundreds of them all going off at once. And then when you're done with the show, then you got all the cacophony of the casinos, ding, 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 bang, 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 and it's like, man. But they had some interesting kiosks out on the sidewalk, as I recall.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Soiled doves selling their wares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very apropos. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's still going on, but it was back then. That was, 23 years back. So maybe it's different now. I don't know. But
it's the same. The kiosks just look different. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, I just remember one of my neighboring buddies from Florida. We had all our tables together, and Bill McHenry and Jason were right behind me, and this one fellow was delivering a knife to this woman who lived in Las Vegas. She ordered the knife at the Blade show, and then he got it done, and then she was like, well, she owed him a balance, and she says, well, how's about we go up to your room and we'll work some of this off? And I just remember him saying, I can get a better deal than that out on the street, one of them flyers.
Oh my God. Wow.
Well,
must have been there was a big bill due on that knife. That's why.
Oh yeah, there was.
Right there.
Yeah. He had diamonds and stuff in it. This was back in the I guess the big wave of the high art, knives, when the switchblades, but it was all very intricate stuff. You'd be sometimes months in one knife. You know, it was like they never ended. Just carving them and all this and that. But I'd like to see some of that come back.
Yeah. So you were at that show with some of those New England makers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I was good friends with Bill and Jason. I used to stay at Bill's house when I'd come up there because I used to go up there every fall, and I would do the Rhode Island Custom Knife Show, which sadly is no longer. But back then, it was Oregon and Rhode Island were the only legal states for switchblades. I don't like to call them automatics, and um, and I've never made a double action, nor do I want to, because when you're a jet all the way.
There you
But
go. I like that.
but
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, so I used to hang with him, Ralph Salvideo.
So you were going to those.
Yeah, and I also did a show out at the Big E there in West Springfield. So yeah, and that always happened in October, so it was perfect. I was living in Florida. I'd drive up there, and do the Rhode Island show coming in, go visit friends and family, look at all the gorgeous foliage, then head out to stayed with a friend in West Hampton, and then I'd go up, do the Big E show, and then head on down the road back to Florida. But
Oh man. I mean, yeah, that's living the dream already, huh? Jeez. Okay. All right.
yeah. Well, I'm not so much a fan of the flying to knife shows anymore. The TSA really put a damper in that. But when I can drive to one, yeah. Last year I drove from Texas to the Blade show rather than fly. Usually I'd fly, but I just decided to drive it this last year, which was interesting. I liked it. It's a long drive, yeah, but still.
I'm a huge fan of car trips, so I'm totally for
Yeah.
that.
Oh, do you drive from New England to Vegas, or?
I've done it many times. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I definitely I enjoy a lot of time on the road with myself behind the wheel. I like driving just about everywhere I can.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there's something about it.
Just
I don't know.
yeah, just me and the music, man. That's it.
Yeah, that's the same with me. You got to have the tunes going, and sometimes I used to think, oh man, I missed my calling. I should have been a long haul truck driver. And I go, well, you wouldn't really see the country. You'd just see the country's loading docks.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So music is also part of. I mean, you've been involved in the music industry a little bit, huh?
Well, I wouldn't say the music industry. I haven't put out records or had any recording contracts, but I know a number of people that are in that line of it. And I guess we share some mutual customers and Aerosmith, and I'm not sure who else might have visited your shop, but I met them fellas back it was in 97. I was in Florida, in Orlando, and my first celebrity customer was David Crosby, because Crosby, Stills and Nash came to Orlando, and I had read his book. Oh Yes I Can was the name of it, and in one part of it, he mentioned how he liked things that were made better than they had to be made. And one of those things was knives. He said he loved custom knives. And I found that intriguing, and went to see the show. And I noticed when we were leaving that there was this big tour bus right across the street at this Omni Hotel. And I go, I bet you that's where they're staying. So the next morning, I went down there with a knapsack full of knives and was sitting in the lobby. This was weird.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, but I was
Okay.
waiting for them
All
to come
right.
down. And
Oh boy.
and what I didn't, guy at the desk, he kept looking, just seeing me there with a day pack and just sitting there. And it dawned on me, because then he came up and he goes, do you have business here? Do you have a room here? And I said, no. And he goes, do you have business here? I go, well, I'm hoping to meet David Crosby when they come check out, And it dawned on me then, because just a few blocks up the very road was a Greyhound bus station. So he probably thought I just got off the bus and was contemplating my next move in the air-conditioned comfort of their lobby or something. So
Oh boy.
he says
All
to
right.
me, he goes, do you know his room number? I said, no. I go, that's why I'm sitting here waiting. If I'd known his room number, I would have come right in and got in the elevator. you know? So he says,
Yeah. Right.
so
Would
he
have been
says,
direct.
yeah. So he says, well, get on the house phone here and tell them who you want to speak to. And so I pick up the phone and I can feel this guy's breath on the back of my neck. I was going, yeah, he can't wait to give me the bum's rush out of here, because I thought, oh yeah, David Crosby's checked in under his own name. So, I get the person go, oh, who would you like to speak? I said, David Crosby. And she goes, okay. And then phone rings and then this guy answers. And I go, Mr. Crosby? And then there's this pregnant pause. And then he goes, yes. Like, what the hell just happened? Now what? And I said, oh, I'm a knife maker, and I just would like to show you some of my work when you come down to check out. And then he just opened up. He said, come on up. And he told me his room number. So up I went, and I remember that was back in the Jim Baker, Tammy Faye Baker scandal thing going on, and he had that on the news. He's there, oh, can you believe this shit? He goes,
Oh
he's
boy.
there, I'm not a man of God, but I play one on TV. Anyway, he's looking through my knives, and I told him how I made one for Stevie Ray Vaughan when he cleaned up, because I had been a friend of his for years. And I was so happy that he didn't, end up like Hendrix. I sent him a long letter, saying I hope, you can get your colors together, so to speak. And anyway, Crosby found a knife he liked, and it was pretty straightforward, little fixed blade, 3.25-inch blade, fixed blade knife. He goes, oh, this would come in handy on my boat, because he loved sailing. And at that time, I think it was like $150. I think it was for the knife with the sheath. And he goes, how much? And he goes, how much? I go, 150. And I think he realized that, yeah, this guy ain't trying to gouge me or nothing, just because I'm a big celebrity. But the thing was, he didn't have $150 on him. He had to make 3 phone calls to get the cash.
Come on. Oh boy.
Well,
Oh man.
early. Well,
All right.
it's kind of weird in a way. A lot of people think that these guys are rolling in dough. Some of them are, but there's some of them. I read something earlier this spring when this whole COVID nutty stuff come on that Crosby. I was looking forward to seeing him here in Austin back in May, because he got a knife from me 2 years ago when he played in Austin, and so that's the second one he has of mine, and that was a nice one too. It was a folder. The first one was a fixed blade, and he got a Warncliffe blade folder this time, and I had engraved spine. Stand and be counted. Stand on the truth was on the inside of it. And but he was saying all his tours got canceled, and his spring and summer tours were canceled, and he says, I hope I'll still be able to gig in the fall and do my tour. He goes, otherwise I'm probably going to lose my house. But again, well, he also had some serious health issues. I'm sure liver transplants don't come cheap, and I don't think, and he didn't have health insurance. So anyway, when I was in Florida, a knife maker in New Hampshire tipped me off saying, hey, if Aerosmith ever comes to town, look him up. He goes, because Joe Perry collects knives, because his wife just ordered one from me. So they came to town, and I went to the arena where they were playing. There's a big fence and a security guard and a golf cart thing at the gate, and all these people hanging on the gate. And I just haven't, been in so many of Stevie Ray's shows. I just learned that you just walk in like you're supposed to be there. So that's what I started to do. I wasn't going to ask him. I was just going to walk right by. And then the guy goes, hey, can I help you? I go, well, I'm here to see Joe Perry, which I was. Joe didn't know it, but I knew. It's sort of that.
It was happening.
Yeah, you got the power of positive thinking, So anyway, this other fellow was coming through behind me, and I guess he was like a local lights or something. I think it was sound or something. But the security guy knew him, and he goes, this guy says he's here to see Joe Perry. And so then the guy looks at me, he goes, they're not here, and their crew's going to do the sound check. And I just went, all I know is I'm supposed to meet him here between 5 and 6. Still not taking no for an answer. So he goes, okay, follow me in. And so I follow him in there, and there's this guy in a big glass, office, big glass windows, big burly guy. He goes, that's the head of security. Go see him. And I thought, that's the last person I need to see.
That's not great.
So I'm just sort of skulking in the shadows, wondering, am I going to get a glimpse of these guys or something? And everyone's got laminate passes hanging around their necks, and all that, except me. But I got a leather briefcase full of knives. I graduated from the day.
Looking
pack.
Professional.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
And
nice.
Anyway, these big overhead doors open, like what 18-wheelers would drive through. And the glaring Florida sun, it was just blinding from this dark. All of a sudden it's blinding, and you just see the silhouette of these 5 rather skinny guys. And they come walking by. So fast it about made my head spin. But I had written a note in the back of my business cards to Joe. But he went by me so quick, and so did, and so I got one of the entourage. I go, hey, can you get this to Joe? He goes, no promises, but I'll try. So they started their sound check, and this one security guy is looking at me going, he's got a leather briefcase, but he doesn't have a laminate. What's going on? And anyway, they did a couple of tunes. Then I seen Joe come running down the ramp from the stage, comes up to me. He goes, hey, are you the knife guy? I go, yeah. He goes, don't go anywhere. He goes, I fucked up. I didn't bring a knife with me. I got to see what you have. So I said, okay.
That's great.
So they finished their set, and he come up to me. He goes, oh, let's see what you have. So I open my bag, my leather bag, and I'm pulling knives out. Now this guy that's been watching me for the past hour comes running up. You can't do that in here. And so then Joe goes, well, where can we do this? He goes, only backstage, like in your area. So then Joe grabs one of his guys and goes, get me a backstage pass for this fella. And the guy goes, oh, we're all out. And he goes, well, what can we get him back there with? He goes, oh, I have a working personnel patch. He goes, well, give it. So I got that, slapped it on my jeans, and got to walk back and hang in the lounge with Joe. He bought back in the day when I used to make tactical folders, he bought one of those. And Brad Whitford was looking them over. And then in walks Steve and Tyler. And he said, what's going on here? And Brad Whitford goes, oh, we're just looking at some knives this guy makes. And Tyler's eyes bugged out. He said, I love knives. So then he found one he liked. And he said, okay, after the show, I'll shower and then we'll come back and we'll do a deal here. And, I told him how, I used to see them back in Massachusetts when they were still playing the clubs and have people dancing on the tables and stuff, and they used to rehearse in Brockton at the Brockton Theater. They rehearsed there for a while. Anyway, it was, I got to see the show. I was right backstage with them before they cut on, and the lights slowly start coming up, and you could feel the energy. I mean, it's I don't know if you ever felt this, but it lifts you up by the seat of your pants, literally. All the energy, all those people in there, just that roar of approval because they know the show's about to start. And Tyler's pantomiming like he's got 8-hanger handlebars on his chopper and he's revving it. And all of a sudden they just go, let's go. And they all went scooting up the ramp there. And I went and saw it from the sound and light booth. It was just a great time, And then afterwards, I had to wait for him to get showered and cleaned up after that because those guys, man, they worked their butts off. And anyway, everyone with a working personnel is humping butt. They're striking the stage. They're pushing gear onto the trucks. I'm leaning against the wall. And the security guy comes up and he goes, you work for Aerosmith? And I go, yeah. He goes, what do you do? I go, I'm their weapons maker.
That's a great answer. Great answer.
So and then Tyler comes out, waves me in, and he goes, this is how this is going to go, because I told him the knife was $1,200 at the time. And he goes, I'm going to give you $1,000 for that, and I'm going to give it to Keith Richards. And I go, no, you're not. And he goes, oh, man, I thought you'd go. I was hoping you'd go for that. But he got a nice knife. I didn't back down on the price. And then he told me, he goes, I want you to design me a switchblade, with an Aerosmith theme to it. So he gave me all the contact info and all that. And so I drew something up, and they were back in Florida, and I got with them. And, I was talking on the phone to him, and I had drawn it out. I was going, yeah, it comes out to 9 inches overall, or 9.5 inches overall. I said, hey, if I make the blade just another 1/4 inch longer, I'm going to have to make the handle a 1/4 inch longer to accommodate it. I go, we can call it the big 10-inch. He goes, you're a freaking genius. And I made it, and carved the Aerosmith logo in the ivory, and he's got, I think, 12 or 13 of my knives. I've lost count. But
oh wow!
Back when
so that's a regular collector. That's awesome.
Yeah, Yeah, and Joe and Brad, they've gotten some from me as well. Brad didn't get one that night. He waited till the second time through, and then he got what I call the Pirate Boy knife, and that's the one on my website with the in the testimonials page with the picture of Tyler and me. He's actually got Brad's knife in his mouth. So he goes, "That's a pirate knife, huh?" He goes, "That's how you carry that, and sticks it into those big choppers." I was going, "Man, don't go putting
That's awesome.
dents in it. Brad's got to pay me for this." But anyway, Ted Nugent wanted me to give him a knife because he was Ted. And I told him, I said, "Look, he got me, I met with him before his Damn Yankees show. That was in the early 90s. And, he got me a, after show pass, and, I got to watch the show. And then he goes, "Give me a knife and I'll make you famous in my arch bow hunting book." And I go, "Well, you're too late."
Yeah, right.
But,
sorry, bud.
I gave him a little miniature knife pin I made up. I says, "Well, I'll give you one of these, thanks for the show." I go, the only one I've ever made a knife for was Stevie Ray. And even he argued with me about, he couldn't accept such an extravagant thing. And I was just so happy that, he hadn't OD'd or anything. But he gave me, he goes, "I don't want to cut the friendship." He goes, "So you have to give something back." And he didn't have a coin. So he gave me a $50 bill. And then he said, he goes, yeah. And then he goes, "Can you make a copy of this?" He goes, "I'd like to give one to my guitar hero," and he collects knives, which was Lonnie Mack, who passed away a few years back. So I made another one, which I called it the Srv Bowie. It's just a small, 5-inch blade. It wasn't a real big thing, but I gave that to him the last time I saw him alive, and within months he was gone. And then I met up with Lonnie Mack, and I said, "How'd you like that knife Stevie got you?" And he looked at me and goes, "What knife?" I go, "You didn't get it?" He goes, "No, I didn't get anything." I said, "Well, you were supposed to." So I reached into my bag of tricks and pulled out a sheath knife for him and gave it to him. I says, "You were supposed to get one, so here you go." And
wow,
that made it in the Blade magazine. It was a little blurb they called Bluesy Blade, because he put it right on his belt and was performing with it that night. I took a picture. And, that was at a place called Skipper Smokehouse in Tampa. I loved their T-shirts. It said, "We'll smoke anything." Well, it was a barbecue. Yeah, a barbecue place.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, what?
Right.
But still, there was a little bit of a double entendre with that one. Yeah, James Taylor. I never would have pictured him knife enthusiast, but he ordered one. Actually, I met his oldest brother, Alex, when I lived in Florida at King Snake Records, King Snake Recording Studios, which was in Sanford, Florida. And the next town up was where Sheffield Knife Makers Supply was. And I knew the owner of the studio just because of the music connection thing. And I'd stop by after I'd pick up supplies, show him what I had. He bought a couple. And Alex Taylor was there, and with his younger brother, Hugh, who was a spitting image of James. When he came walking downstairs from the recording studio, I thought it was James. But anyway, Alex got a knife from me, and he goes, "My brother James is going to see this, and he's going to want it. But I'm not going to give it to him." So he said, give me one of your cards so I can give him that, and he'll probably want to get one from you. And a couple months later, I got a call from James Taylor saying, yeah, I really liked Alex's knife, but he's my big brother and he wouldn't give it to me. So I got to get you to make them. He goes, make them for Livingston and Hugh too, my other brothers. He goes, that way we got peace in the family. And he wanted their names etched on the blade. So I had this fella do that for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know what it is with musicians and knives. I call it their road managers, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean that
who
works.
knows? But well, anyway,
I mean, I think there's definitely a connection.
you
I know
think
there's
so?
knives and musicians. It's like the fascination with baubles and weapons, right? The combination of the two, high end, well made weapons that are also
Yeah.
can sometimes be attractive, right? There's a meeting of art and practicality there.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's my motivation for it. Probably one of my biggest influences was a book called Steel Canvas. Came out somewhere in the mid '90s, I think. Big coffee table book, but it was all about embellishment of arms from like about 15, 1600s right up to the present day. And so, that was the inspiration for me. Yeah, I recently worked. Well, I bought a couple knives from an area collector here, and he come by my house because he lived in San Antonio, and found out we're not that far apart. And he came by with a whole bunch of knives he had, and was saying, man, he goes, I'd like to sell these. He goes, but eBay's such a pain. And I was looking at some. I go, I think I know some people who'd be interested in some of these. And so he had 19 knives he left with me to photograph and contact. And I told him we sold 13 out of the 19, which was pretty good.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I'll help you out, man, but let's make it maybe a half dozen at a time. This was a bit much, you know. But he,
Yeah,
but he
right.
had a couple of folders. He wanted me to, he was showing me, and every one of them had up and down blade play. They were liner locks. And I told him, I said, I think I can fix these. And so he left them with me. And, I got to fix them, and I won't mention names, but there's some pretty big names. And every one of their knives was sadly lacking. And one thing I do is I make sure that everything works right before I even think about how pretty to make it. Because I told this guy, I go, well, they got the sizzle, but they're not getting the steak with this. But but I fixed them, and he got rid of them. But it was just I couldn't, even just taking them apart. It was like, why did they make them like this? You have to take the whole thing apart. I go, if there's going to be any malfunction with a folder, most likely, I'd say 9 times out of 10, it will be with the lock. So why do you have to take the whole knife apart to get to the liner lock? And so anyway, it was time consuming, but I did fix them, and he got to move them on. But yeah, I like years ago, Ken Warner, when he used to do the Knives Annual, he used to say mine were straightforward, some of them, and then he'd say an idiosyncratic in their styling, because I don't like to. I used to do models, but I just don't do that anymore. back in the 96 or 7, I think. The tacticals were first coming up, and I made a few tacticals, and I even got a nice write-up in Tactical Knife magazine. Steve Dix saw my stuff at the Blade show and had Butch Winter do an article on me. But I just noticed with the tacticals, everyone was undercutting one another, and you'd check the ads every month, and everyone was dropping their price, undercutting the other guy. Says, I'm wanting to go up, not down. And then I saw that Steel Canvas book, and I was hanging out with Bill McHenry, when I'd come up to New England, and that's where I got a lot of my initial switchblade instruction was from him. But then when I come back to Florida, I made my own type of sear instead of what he showed me. But, there were only 3 of us were invited to this what he called springtime in the woods, because he lived out in the woods of Rhode Island. You won't think of Rhode Island that way, but where he was really gorgeous. But, the mystique's gone out of that.
Springtime in the woods, huh?
Yeah, that's what he called it. And Butch Valentin was there as well. Ralph Salvidio was one of the students, myself, and this other fella from New Hampshire.
I mean, Bill was all about the. I mean, he was he was an ex-jeweler, so he was definitely about the look, right?
Yeah.
I mean, of course the function, but he was definitely a man of details.
Very much. And I first met his knives before I met him. And it was kind of funny. It was at this show that in Plant City, Florida, the bustling metropolis of Plant City. I used to call it was always around Groundhog Day weekend. But I used to call it the UFO show. Just because I said knife makers appear in this obscure southern town, but they're only seen by a handful of rednecks. But it was kind of
excellent description.
Yeah. Well, have you been to Plant City?
No, but I can think of many shows that applies to.
Oh, really? You'll have to let me know and forewarn me.
Exactly.
But
man.
But yeah, so this fella Phil Fallon, he had Neshoba Valley Knife Works in Massachusetts. He come down and
that sounds very familiar.
Yeah. And he had a McHenry knife, and everyone was like, wow, look at this. And you form a picture in your mind's eye on, I'm picturing some old watchmaker type, real precise, guy. And then the next year, Bill comes down and was like, what's he doing at a knife show? Shouldn't he be at the Grateful Dead concert someplace? But we all hung out and got to be real good friends, and I miss him a lot. He'll be gone 2 years next month. But we used to talk at least once a week, if not more. And a lot of it was, we'd start out with knives, and it would eventually morph into guitars, because he had a passion for guitars. He didn't play them as well as I do, but he liked tinkering with them. And when he passed on, his daughter gave me a phenomenally good deal on one of his vintage 68 Supro Arlingtons, which I think, that's the one I'm with in the Knife magazine article. It was out a couple months ago. But
so that's a very special guitar then.
Oh, yeah. Plus, he wanted one of my knives. I have made knives for other knife makers, have ordered knives from me, so I guess I must be doing something right. But
you're doing all right. You're doing good.
he said, he goes, I've always wanted one of your knives. he goes, and I want your motorcycle jacket. I had this vintage motorcycle jacket. He was always hounding me for it. And he goes, make me a small fixed blade and that motorcycle jacket. And thing was, this was just a little before, maybe not even, about a month before Christmas. And I had a dagger, Damascus dagger I had made up. It was not exact. It was bigger than the small fixed blade, but it was still a fixed blade and tiger maple handle. And I just said, well, I'll just send him this because I had too much other work to do anyway. And sent him the motorcycle jacket and the knife. And I still keep the message. He left on my phone saying, oh man, you're too generous. This is more, I didn't need, this is too much, not, blah, blah. But so it is, Richard Wright told me he got that knife now. So I'm glad it's went to another good home.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. That knife is, yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. And, but the box was sitting, it was took an act of Congress to get Bill to leave the ranch, as he called it, this place. And I said, Bill, I sent this stuff priority. I'm checking. It's been there for 3-4 days now. You going to go pick it up? Well, yeah, I'll get to it. He goes, my daughter's going to take me to a doctor appointment, new doctor I got to go see. And I says, he goes, and I can't drive, so she's got to come pick me up. And I says, well, have her swing by the post office. I go, you see a new doctor, nothing's going to, you got to make a great impression. Come strolling in with a vintage motorcycle jacket on. And I had forgot to take my skull pin off it.
Nice.
And
there you go.
So he wore that in, and when his daughter, after he passed, I was talking with Jocelyn, and she says, oh, do you want that motorcycle jacket back? I said, no. I go, but I didn't mean to send him my skull pin. That was one thing I forgot. So she sent me that, and he had wanted, last we talked, lost wax carved up these skull rings he had designed, but he didn't cast them himself because he was really, he had a lot of health issues in his later years. So he says, well, he goes, I designed them. He goes, but someone else had to cast them for me. He goes, but what's your ring size? He goes, your middle finger. What's your middle finger size? I go, I don't know. I don't wear a ring on my middle finger. He goes, well, these are designed for your wearing on your middle finger. So I said, well, I'll have to go to a jewelry store and have him size my finger or something. He goes, oh no. He goes, grab a business card and cut a strip and wrap it around. He goes, that'll give the most accurate. And I had that on my kitchen counter, and he had called me. We had talked so long that his battery went dead on him, and I was busy trying to get Christmas orders done, and he had left a message saying, hey, we didn't finish our conversation. And I just said aloud went, Bill, I'm up to my ass in alligators here. I'll talk to you after Christmas. And he passed that night. So now anytime I see on the caller ID it's a friend, I pick it up. I don't give a shit how busy I am, because that really kind of, but and Jocelyn sent back the skull pin and a skull ring, and it fit me perfect on my middle finger, of course.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it is.
Shoot.
But, anyway, so what are your primary, what's the knives you sell the most of in Vegas?
I mean, I think autos are switchblades are more popular now than I think they've ever been.
Really?
To be honest.
Oh yeah.
Because of of so much loosening in the legalities of the Federal Switchblade Act. I mean, state to state, we're seeing. I mean, Texas, right? Texas, you can carry automatics, open carry automatics now. Well, and brass knuckles too.
Yeah,
But
you can even carry a long Bowie knife on your belt and go out and do your shopping if you want. But
see,
yeah,
as one should.
well, I don't know about that, but I have from time to time only because I can. Sounds like New Hampshire, where New Hampshire made it so everything was legal just as I was leaving. But
Well, that's usually live for
but
your die, man.
yeah, well, I made a knife for a fella up in New Hampshire this past summer. It had a little crown stag handle on it, and I polished off the end of the crown, and I put "live, freeze, and die," which you can probably relate to since you told me yesterday it was cold.
Yes,
But,
very cold, extremely cold. Yep.
Well, that's because you've been in Vegas for years. Now it's. But yeah, down here in Texas, shit, it gets below 60. People are putting on parkas and stuff. It's kind of funny. I consider it a holiday when I can put on a flannel shirt.
Oh, say there you go. Yeah. Break out the flannels. Yeah, man.
Oh yeah. But yeah. I've been making, instead of the switchblades, I've been making some big Navaja styles, real sweeping clip blades, but they're good size. And they're pretty much like, I don't know if you call it I guess in New York they'd call it a gravity knife, but and they're so big that I make a tooled cross draw sheath, so you pull it out and it just takes the tiniest little and it's open. It's as quick as a switchblade, but it don't have all the baloney. So, but not that it's baloney, but I don't know. The way I was shown to make them by Bill, one thing I will say is none of my knives have ever had to have ever malfunctioned as far as switchblades. Bill did make sure the structural integrity was the key. It wasn't because when they first made the splash, everyone and their mother was making them, and a lot of them were dying. The show was over. But ours took a licking and kept on ticking.
That's the spirit. See, there we go.
Yeah.
Built to last,
right?
Yeah.
Well, there's certain things you have to do with them. Even making the kick spring, it's like making a fine custom-made pool cue. The tapers, everything's just got to be just so, and you have to use special. There's a certain steel that works the best, and I don't know. But again, like I said, I haven't made one in so long. But instead, I've made these other ones.
There's a time and a place for everything, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just waiting to come back around or something.
Well, maybe we'll see. But when I've looked online at various knife dealer sites, when I see the automatics on there, they don't seem to be bringing. I says, man, I used to get more than that. And, you got so much work in them. So I said, I'm just going to keep making the manuals, and I'll make my gravity Navaja things, and that'll be that. But if someone wants to
Navajas are an excellent knife.
Oh, yeah. Geez, I'm looking at one on my wall. I collect knives as well. I like 19th century knives. When I observed my 25th year of knife making, I was trying to think of something special to commemorate. And, in that steel canvas book, there were just so many really nice Bowie knives and things like from Sheffield and in the 1800s that I started collecting those, and now I'm in the Antique Bowie Knife Association. But I've got a huge Navaja on my wall. It's open. It's nearly 2 feet long.
Holy moly!
It's the second one I have. Steven Tyler got the first one. They're and it was we were sitting down in Sunapee Harbor there in New Hampshire, and I had just gotten this Navaja, 1.5-inch blade. So you needed like 11.5 inch. So it was like, 23, 24 inches open when you opened it. And it fit right down in the pocket of my hiking shorts, and you didn't even see it. And we were sitting around, and I go, I know you need to be politically correct these days. I go, is anyone going to be offended if I clean my fingernails with my pocket knife? Oh, no, go ahead. I pull this thing out, and again, Tyler's eyes just go, man, I got to have that. And he got it. But and then afterwards, I was going, oh man, I'll never get another one of those. And then another one come up on eBay, the same Navajas de Toledo, nice etching on the blade. They're from like the early to mid 1800s, and so I got it. But it's just to see the look on everyone's face. Oh yeah, go right ahead. Think I'm going to pull out this little thing, and I just ka-chunk. They go, oh, yeah. So we're backing away.
We didn't think it was going to be quite that big.
Well, I can be a merry prankster at times. I find it fun.
That's pretty great.
Yeah. But
Antique Bowie Association. That's pretty far out. So I'm assuming that you have quite a few Bowies then.
Oh yeah, yeah. Probably too many, but I've got a nice one made from a fella in Paris in the 1830s. Beautiful carved ivory handle, sterling silver guard, beautiful sterling silver mounts on the sheath. It's just gorgeous. I got a number of them, and I've sold quite a few, but I still have quite a few as well. That's the one thing. This year's been just so goofy. There's been no knife shows because I always went to the Antique Bowie Knife Show. I know, isn't there one? There was one out in Vegas, I think, in January. It was sort of there'd be a knife show, and then wasn't there an antique arm show in the same building or something?
It's the antique antique gun and knife show, and then there's a couple other shows around there, but that antique one is that's a blast. That's a great show.
Yeah, well, I remember one year they were both in the same building. I don't know if it still is, but I thought about going, and I said, it'll be too much like them Big E days in Springfield, because that was I loved that gun and knife show just because there was so much history in it. It wasn't just all the modern stuff that you see these days, because I'd sell a knife and then I'd go take a stroll, and I'm coming back with an 1850 pocket boot pistol, checkered walnut handle, and or 1812 grave swords and that. I was going, that Vegas one, I don't know if I'd make any money at
it. It can be fickle sometimes. That's true.
Yeah. A couple folders I've made recently have been a sort of collection this past year. I think I sent you the pictures there, that wavy bladed Chris there that I call Chris Pissed Offerson. just because I'm thinking, man, everything's closed down. You know,
So when you're in the shop now and you're working on stuff, you don't. It sounds like you don't take orders. You just kind of make what you want to make.
well, I'm working on an order right now for a store in Vermont I've been dealing with for 20 years. He regularly buys four-figure knives from me and regularly sells them. So, you know, we've had a good thing going. You know, I wouldn't mind getting a good thing going with you guys, but you never know. Um, but you know, I've had busier Christmases. Last year, I was super busy. This year I just came back from New Mexico. I did a trip, and they were hurting real bad. One town they definitely. Well, I'm sure Vegas is the same thing. It's a very tourist dependent economy, and if people aren't traveling, you know, it just has slowed down substantially. And but luckily I've got a few orders. But yeah, mostly when I take an order, it's one thing I don't do. I used to do custom orders way back in the day, but you know how hard it is to see into someone else's mind's eye. You can't. you know.
I'm still working on it, man.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
working
are
on
you? Oh, all right. Well, let me know when you've cracked the code.
it.
But
Absolutely. I'll call you up with a breakthrough any day now.
yeah. All right. Yeah, I'll probably come after the big feedlet next week, and you're lying there meditating your ass off. But
Yeah, that sounds. It's on my calendar. Yeah.
yeah, there you go. But I people order things from me. I mean, as far as doing specifics, one guy I remember calling me up wanting me to make this knife that was going to cost buku bucks, but he didn't have the money. And when I quoted him, I said, "Man, I go, you got any idea how hard this is going to make?" He goes, "But it'd be my dream. Can't you make it for what I can afford?" And I says, "I can't let your dream become my nightmare." But I don't know. Sometimes there was one other time someone was a good customer of mine. He used to really make my year when I lived in Florida, and he wanted a warthog scrimmed on this ivory handle knife. I sent it to the scrim shander, and when it come back and I sent it to him, he didn't like it because he said nothing to do with my work. It was the scrim shander. He said, "This doesn't look like a warthog. This looks like Alf." and then he sent the knife back to me, and then I had to make the call to the scrim shander and says he doesn't like the warthog. Says it looks like Alf. And now I've got to sand it down, repolish, and now he wants a lion instead. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it all depends. Of course, I cheerfully take orders, but you got to get free reign on it. If you're looking for specifics, but everything's got to be this, that, or the other. Some people want a certain maker's steel. Fine, we'll get together and do that. But
That can be real tricky, especially with like you're saying, like if someone's got some sort of specific idea or some sort of contrived concept of what the knife should be.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that can get complicated.
Yeah, I had a guy do that to me in Florida my last year there because Kevin Hoffman and he was another guild member. I'm not in the guild anymore, but we were charged with finding facility for the newly formed Florida Knife Maker Association. They wanted a show, and they go, no, we don't want it in no VFW hall or something, American, we got to have a nice joint. But so they had champagne taste with a beer budget. And we went around looking at all these Orlando, Florida shows. And then we finally found them a place, actually, one place that told us, we can't afford to do it for you for this, but this other hotel's just been newly refurbished, and they're probably antsy for some business. So we went and talked to them, and we had a brand new showroom with the chandeliers, the carpet, and all that. But a fella ordered a knife from me to be delivered at the next year's Blade show. And I go, okay, yeah, well, what you want, clip? What kind? He wanted a folder, a switchblade. He goes, just make me a nice knife. So I made a knife. I go, okay, he's giving me free rein. And then I get it to him, and he goes, this isn't the knife we talked about. I go, what are you talking about? And I was like, kind of rip shit about it. I was like, man, I figured I had a sale already, and now. And I ended up calling a collector in Hawaii. He was more than happy to get it and paid me more for it. And then this other guy called me because he was a dealer in Florida. And he says, I need my knife. I said, well, I had it for you a week ago and you didn't want it. I go, now you're at the back of the list. I got other orders to fill. He goes, I need it. I need it within the next week or two. I said, sorry, I can't do that. And he got all belligerent with me. And I says, you know what? I made a New Year's resolution to only deal with pleasant people. And I regret to inform you that you have not made the cut. And I go, as soon as I get off the phone, I'm writing you a check for your deposit and sending it back. And I go, and it's probably going to be the happiest check I ever wrote. And, but I mean, again, it's, I don't know. I don't want to be sour grapes here, but again, I just said, if you're going to order something, fine, but tell me, like the late Ralph Selvideo, who was another one of the switchblade guys out of Rhode Island, Rattler Knives. He used to ask people, what flavor? Trying to talk like I'm from Rhode Island. What flavor do you want? Yeah. What flavor? Give me the flavor you like, and then I'll put the jimmies on it.
All right, sure.
Stuff like that, but I just I love mammoth ivory. I love the different colors and stuff like that. I like the warm feel of it, and plus it was a handle of choice even way back in the ancient days, because even when your hand's wet with whatever, it gives you a good grip, but I'm really not much into all the carbon fiber or any of these synthetic things. I do use some linen micarta now and then, but I really prefer the natural materials, and I love Damascus steel just because it's as unique as the thumbprint or fingerprint. You're never going to get two the same, Well, unless maybe Damas steel, that stuff I wouldn't use that. But I like the high carbon stainless. I use I melt up some paraffin and heat the blade up after it's been etched and polished and all that. And, as long as you don't get it above the temper, and then I dip it in this paraffin, and it's like capillary action, and it just kind of sucks it right in through all that topography. And I have not had any trouble with any rust on my blades in 20 years. That was a trick Steve.
Oh, there you go.
Trick Steve Schwartzer showed me. But you know,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, but
Yeah, the paraffin? Huh.
yeah, yeah, who'd have thunk?
That's I don't know. That's tricky. That's tricky business right there.
Well, it works great. You wipe off the excess, and it's there. And like I said, no one's ever sent their knives back to me. Oh, this rusted up or so. It's in there. It's impregnated. I guess I do tell them from time to time. You might want to, at least if you don't have what's that? The Renaissance wax. You know, just any fine quality car paste wax, not liquid, but paste wax. Just put some, like you're buffing up, shining up your bumper or something on your car. But paraffin works better because that's what they use in canning and stuff. So it's a little more friendlier. Say if you're cutting food with your Damascus knife, at least it's paraffin wax on there, so you're not going to get berry or something. But or whatever.
When you were going back and forth, you came from Massachusetts to Florida, back up to New Hampshire.
Well,
I mean
I did a yo.
That's a lot of traveling.
Yeah, I did a yo thing. Massachusetts to Florida, then back up to Massachusetts, then back to Florida. Thought about going to Texas, but then ended up in New Hampshire. I used to I loved up in New Hampshire. That's where I used to spend my vacations, backpacking in the White Mountains. Spend your vacations busting ass, scrambling up and down these mountains. And then you'd need a vacation from your vacation when you're done. But, I liked it up there, and I tried, and then I finally moved down to Texas. It was mostly the music was what was drawing me here. That, and I used to be a historical reenactor. So I used to come down and get killed at the Alamo every March. First weekend of March is when it's the anniversary of the battle, the Alamo battle. So after being in New Hampshire winter, by end of February, it was right after the East Coast Knife Show in Manhattan, back when that was going on. I would, go do the show, always did well, and then I'd get on a plane and go down and get killed at the Alamo. And I was going, wow, I can see the ground again. I haven't seen that since last October.
That's that's about right. A historical reenactor that I would not have. That's different. I did not see that one coming.
Oh yeah.
So is that something you still do, or that was something that you were passionate about for a little while?
I did it for a little while. Yeah. Up in New Hampshire, there was this group that did a thing called Canoe-Vu. It was like a rendezvous on the Connecticut River right across, from Mount Ascutney in Vermont. And one of my good friends, he belonged to this group, and he just told me about it. And he says, as long as you're dressed pre-1840, you're welcome. Most of them were dressed like Revolutionary War or French and Indian War. I'd show up as the beaner, as we used to call ourselves in Florida, and I'd go to the Alafaya River rendezvous. But I was like the 1830s era Texan with the big wide sombrero thing and Bowie knives, and one day, and my friend, he had the Camp Tavern, so that was the popular joint after sundown,
There you go. See? Rules still apply, that counts.
Yeah, the Snow Goose Tavern, and he even had an old oak casket that he would drop the keg into, so it still looked like it was all, period. You didn't see any aluminum keg, which, by the way, that keg beer gives you strength. It's proven. When you first get that keg, you can
Yeah.
hardly move it, but boy, before you know it, you can throw that thing across the air. But
A couple hours go by, and all of a sudden it's just, it's the strength. That's what
that's
it
right.
is.
And this one guy was getting on me. He's going, this is the French and Indian War encampment. And I says, well, I was told pre-1840, and I'm completely within those. So I said, so just regard me as a paranormal visitor from your not too distant future to your camp.
That's right. It's totally within the time constraint. It's fine.
Yeah.
It passes.
Yeah, but I've always liked the Alamo. I mean, I grew up in that. Well, how should I say this? The TV shows were, I guess, uh, politically incorrect and historically inaccurate. But
There you go. Yeah, that works.
Zorro and Tarzan and the Adventures of Jim Bowie, and there was lots of blade action going on, and all those Robin Hoods and all that sort of thing, sword play, knives, all that, but it was just very attractive to me to join this. I delivered a knife one year to a fella in San Antonio, and I coincided it to be ready at the time of the Alamo anniversary. And so come down and saw that they did a reenactment. I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I also met with the curator of the Alamo and told him I wanted to make a Bowie knife I'd give and present it to the Alamo. And I did that in 2007. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was just an attractive thing to me, so I joined the San Antonio Living History Association, even though I lived in New Hampshire. But there were people that come from all over the world that were members of this. It was just a thing. I remember some tourists asked me and the guy portraying Davy Crockett, and I played James Bowie twice. And then Toribio Lasoya, who was a Tejano defender, I portrayed him for 3 years. So I did it 5 years. And this tourist wanted a picture of Bowie and Crockett in front of the Alamo. And this other guy, he had long hair too. And I said, geez, what kind of like, he goes, man, he goes, we're kind of like the Furry Freak Brothers. He goes, do you remember them? I go, remember them? I'm staying with them this weekend. Because I was staying with friends up here in Spring Branch. That's how I found this town, just because it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, because I was just staying in San Antonio, and then I got a Texas nature calendar, and when I turned to April, I saw this Honey Creek natural area. I was going, wow, this is gorgeous, because it had moss hung trees, but there was rapids and big rocks and things. I was going, well, this is sort of like a mix between the deep South and New England. And then I found out it was only 30 miles north of San Antonio. I go, wow, is that pretty up there? So I started looking, and then I met some musicians in a local bar, and we ended up jamming, and then I ended up staying with them. So yeah, it was the Furry Freak Brothers.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's legitimately a great way to find some place to live, which is just to jam in a bar and then crash with some dudes and just be like, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, well, it was.
This is my kind of place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I ended up in Florida because of Randall hired me, but it'd be not, right now there is some live music going on, but nothing really big, and it's way off what it used to be.
Right.
but
Yeah.
but everything's been off, some. So this is
That's true.
kind of who'd have thunk anything like this would happen in our lifetime? But so I don't know. You just got to be
I don't think too
careful.
many people.
No, but I mean, I've gone out to some of the open mics, but when I go, geez, no one's disinfecting that mic after the next performer. I go, no, I'm going to sit this one out. Note to self: bring your own microphone. So that's what I do now, and I'll bring my own mic and stand. I'll go, yep. Nothing shows you care than bringing your own mic to these. At least I know where this has been. Now, should
See?
I?
There you go.
Yeah, I have every confidence that you disinfected this before sending it off to me.
Yes.
And well, if not, it's been nice knowing you.
Yeah. Right.
Well, who was it that had it last? Let me think. Oh, Mike Norris, was he the guy? Is that who I'll have to have my?
Yep.
I'll have to have my
Yeah.
people contact his people. Is that how that goes?
Yeah, right. Have all the people contact all of his people.
Yeah,
The people will figure it out.
That's true.
They'll do it.
No,
It's everybody's off here this year. That's the thing. It's just weird for everybody.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why.
But so you're still playing music regularly, right? Is that so? That's what you're.
Well, I had a gig a couple weeks ago, but I haven't had one since. I haven't really been out beating the bushes about it like I did prior. I used to play a lot in New Mexico, in the summer. That I liked. I liked out of the oppressive Texas heat. That's one thing I forgot. I've got trees hung with Spanish moss in my backyard, and it's nice. I like looking at it. It's a great wind gauge and all that, but it won't grow unless it's hot and humid. And all my house hunting was done during March when I was down for that.
Okay.
So when I heard people, when I first bought my house, I moved in the end of October, so it was gorgeous, beautiful weather. But come the next March, I started hearing people talking about the coming summer the way people talk in New England about the coming winter. I go, what's going on here? Then I found out because I was on the borderline of heat stroke the first summer I was down here. I'm out trying to do yard work and wondering how come it's taking me 2 days to knock my yard down. Well, I didn't know it was 114 degrees with 110% humidity. And
wow.
But New Mexico, I love it. I go up around Santa Fe area, and it's high desert there and mountains around, so it gets up in the 90s, but it don't feel that bad. Like when I went out to Vegas for that guild show, they go, oh yeah, but it's a dry heat, and I go, yeah, but I don't hang around the dryer when I'm doing laundry. But yeah, I don't know. I liked playing out up in New Mexico a lot. Texas is okay, but thing is, you can't swing a cat without hitting a musician in this neck of the woods.
Oh, is that right?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I just bought a bass guitar to try and learn how to play that. I was going, well, there's so many guitar players, and I play and sing and all that, but I just thought, well, if I wanted to get in a band, though, maybe if I could get bass under, play really good bass, then that might open up some more avenues as well. So I'm always trying to learn something.
Keep the melon fresh, right? Always trying to new input is good, no matter what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, speaking of music, I got a friend of mine playing about 5 miles up the road starting at 8, and it's almost 7, and I haven't made dinner or deloused from the shop. I came right in I was etching 3 neck knives and working on a folder order. And actually, I got 3 folders on order on the bench, but this store in Vermont, hey, yeah, I want something for can you have it by Black Friday? I said, I don't think so. No, and you're calling me a week before that. When I got two other
a little bit tight there.
I says I'll get going on it, but I already talked with one fella yesterday, and he says, "Oh, that's all right. I'm in no rush if you want." He says, "Well," I go, "yours was close, but I really got to bust a move and get this one." The other fellow, I got to talk with him yet. He called me this morning. I haven't gotten with him, but I'm sure he'll be understanding too. They're both knife makers that, plunk down some dough and want some couple of folders. So, but they're understanding.
Oh, that's cool.
Well,
right.
They're maybe they're more understanding of it than say if it was someone that wasn't a knife maker. You say, "Hey, you mind if I put yours down because this guy at the store wants one for his Christmas?" That's the one I was telling me yesterday about. It's gonna have malachite handle there, and I told him, yeah, I'd like to do a Grinch theme. And he's not wanting the Grinch, so I got to think of something else green. But
I thought that was hilarious. I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too, especially where I already had it in my. Again, that's what I had in mind. But no, if I do that, then it won't be a sale. And truth be told, I better get a sale here. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Say sometimes it's practical. That's okay.
Yeah. But anyway, well, it's been fun yakking with you.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely it's been a pleasure to sit down and swap some stories. I don't think we covered everything, but I think it's impossible to cover everything all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember you was going to ask me about the walking back from UMass campus in Amherst up to Hadley to pick up my truck that was towed away. That I parked behind Stevie Ray's tour bus when he played up there. I had no idea it was on a walkway. How could you tell when there's a bus there? But
Officer, I didn't see that. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I had 2 guitars, so that made that walk all the longer. Yeah, and I thought my truck had been stolen. I called the police, and they go, "Where was it stolen from?" I go, "UMass, here at the campus. I saw a Stevie Ray Vaughan show right outside the auditorium I was parked." And they go, "Oh, yeah, there were," said, "blue truck?" I said, "Yeah." And they go, "Oh, that was towed." "Why? That was on a walkway." "Well, the bus was on the walkway." "Yeah, but yours was easier to tow."
Oh my god!
But yeah,
wow.
I was.
Thanks, guys.
I was supposed to meet him right after the show. Of course, by the time I walk up there, find out where it was towed to, and they gave me the directions, and I'm walking up there all by myself, walking on a country road. Yeah. The glamour of knife making and music all rolled into one right there.
Telling you, it doesn't get any better. Nice and classy, right?
Oh yeah. But yeah, I'm friends with his brother Jimmy too, and he's bought a number of knives. I get to.
That's cool, man. That's pretty neat.
We get together for lunch now and then, and his 2 twin girls, I got there. They drew me pictures of their horses, and they're on my refrigerator. That's my refrigerator art. And And he didn't want his name mentioned in the article, though, in Knife Magazine. And then they went and put his dragon folder on the cover. Yeah, so he's got 3 in there, and the last 2 on the last page he also has. One of them's one of those Navaja gravity knives. He really liked how quick that opened. And the top one over that he bought for his 80-year-old mother-in-law.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't
Shoot.
Yeah, I didn't, I just said, I go, that's an odd gift for an 80-year-old woman. He says, oh man, she looks like a Hollywood starlet. She played Jack Nicholson's girlfriend in his movie Hell's Angels on Wheels or something like that. One of Nicholson's first movies, he said, he goes, Nicholson played like a bad influence on the town's youth. I said, Jack Nicholson, that had to have been a stretch for him to portray a bad influence. Wow, how did he pull that one off?
How'd he do it?
Yeah,
must have been hard.
Yeah, must have been. Yeah, I used to. That was a banter I did in between my parodies at the comedy club when I was in Florida, and people used to say that, oh, you sound like Jack Nicholson. So I'd put on a pair of Foster Grant wraparounds and pull my hair back and put a big grin on. I go, this is Jack Nicholson as a door-to-door Bible salesman. I think you better buy this goddamn Bible here. Or I'm going to rip your head off. You'll have to edit that out, but yeah. Anyway, the editor of Knife Magazine on the blurb for Jimmy's cover knife, he just put, this is one of 7 owned by Texas blues guitar legend whose brother also was a world-class musician. I was going, oh yeah, well, So when I gave Jimmy his copy, I go, oh yeah, they're talking about Johnny and Edgar Winter. He goes, no, they're not. But
nothing getting past him on that one.
No, he didn't mind. It didn't have his name, but and he told me that his father used to sharpen knives as a sideline. And he said he used to have a business card, up in where they lived in Oak Cliff section of Dallas. He said he used to have a business card that said, when things get dull, call Jimmy.
That's great.
So that's probably that must be why Jimmy Vaughn loves knives as well, I guess. That, and he loves hot rods, so, and I told him I make pocket hot rods.
There you go. That's a great description.
Yeah, that's the way I look at them. Yeah, I like them to look like they're doing 100 even when they're sitting still.
Pocket hot rods. That's what I'm naming this episode. That's great.
Oh, yeah? All right. Yeah, pocket hot rods.
Loving that. That's great.
All righty. Well, I guess we could yak forever, but I probably better think about getting this grime from the shop. It's not very clean work, but it's honest work.
There we go. See, that is the knife maker. Yeah, swapping stories. Very, very cool. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to sit down with us and lay down some good times.
All right.
For the record on that.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure, Jeremiah. Hopefully, maybe we'll meet eye to eye one day.
Yeah, I'd like that. Hopefully a Blade show this coming year, huh?
Yeah. If that happens, or the ice thing in Fort Worth, if that goes on, one of them two. Since Blade's going to be associated with it anyway. But all righty. Well, have yourself a great Thanksgiving and meditate on that looking in a mind's eyes.
Absolutely, man.
Okay.
That's what it's all about. I'm on it. Steve, thank you so much. Have an excellent Thanksgiving, and yeah, man, we'll talk soon.
Okie doke.
All right, bye now.
All right, adios.
To learn more about our guest, check out his website, www.stevehillknives.com. There's also a great article in the September 2020 issue of Knife Magazine featuring pictures of the maker and some of the knives we talked about on today's episode. You can also contact Steve via his email, kingpirateboy2@juno.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bladeology podcast.